Hey guys, it's Veronica and I'm back with another video. Someone upstairs is making noise and I really hope that you can't hear it right now. But anyways, in today's video, we're going to try and keep it chill and casual and do something fun. And I'm going to give you guys a little bookshelf tour of all of our books. So in case you didn't know, I have been posting more like bookish content on my blog recently, link down below. Be sure to check it out. And so I thought it'd be fun to add some of that bookish content to my YouTube channel. And I have books, and I personally like to watch other people's bookshelf tours. So today we're gonna do a little bookshelf tour. Now, we don't have a lot of books in this house because we don't have a lot of bookshelves. So my physical book collection is a little bit small, but I thought it would be more interesting and more fun if I talk about each of the books as I go through the shelves, rather than just like holding it up and just saying the title and the author and then putting it back. So it's gonna be a little bit chatty. I don't really know how long this will take then if I'm gonna talk about every single book. But yeah, I'll just give you some information about how I got the book, if I've read it or not, and if I did read it, did I like it? So yeah, hopefully that sounds like fun and you'll stick around for today's video. But without further ado, let's get into my bookshelf tour. So first things first, actually, I'm just gonna show you around the house and show you where we have books. It's really not a lot, so let's just go through that quickly. So first off, in the living room on our TV stand, we have a small selection of books here. These are all the books that I deem pretty enough to display in the living room. So there's not a lot out here, but at least the ones that we do have are nice to look at. And we are now in the closet slash desk office room. I don't know what to call this. And we have some shelves up here, but I'm not using them to store any books at the moment. I do have a bunch of Korean textbooks, and if you're interested in seeing a textbook shelf tour, I will link a video that I made a few years ago. My collection really hasn't changed much over the years, so it should be mostly the same books that you see here. But the rest of our reading books are all down under the desk on these two shelves. So on the left I have a buttload of classics, like Penguin classics, and then on this side it's a mix of English reading books and Korean books, and yeah, just a hodgepodge. So for the purposes of this video, I'm probably going to take all these books off the shelf and take them to the living room and show you them there, because the lighting underneath the desk is not very good. But yeah, I just want to show you, these are all of the books that we have. That's it. So we're going to start off here in the living room with the pretty books. And just by the way, the weather outside is shifting constantly. The clouds keep passing by. So if the lighting changes drastically from one moment to the next, that is why. It's happening right now as I speak. Okay, so the first two books on the shelf are from the Korea Foundation, part of the Korea Essentials collection. And this is a series of books that you can find usually at like a museum, in a museum bookstore, and that's exactly where I bought these books. And it's a really cool series because each of these small books, like they're maybe about 100 pages or less, they go into detail about different topics related to Korean history and culture. So they have books about obviously painting and religion, and they also have books about the Korean language, Korean traditional dress, traditional dancing, traditional music, the Three Kingdoms history, royalty, battles, and all different kinds of historical topics. So it's a really cool series. I would love to collect them all eventually, but I think that would probably put a rather sizable dent in my savings. So I'm holding off for now. I've actually only read this one too, so I don't even have a good excuse to buy more yet, since I need to read this still. Next book on my shelf is Seoul's Historic Walks by Cho In-suk. I'm not sure how they romanize that. And Robert Kohler. And this is a book that just kind of gives you different walking path ideas. Let me see if I can find an example. Like, they'll give you routes that you should take throughout different areas of Seoul, so you can pass by historic sites. And I found this in the bookstore. I thought it looked really cool because at the time I was in this hiking and history club at my elementary school. I was forced to join it by my vice principal, and I didn't want to do it at first because I was just like, I would rather enjoy my Saturday mornings. But they asked me to join it with the 5th and 6th grade students, and I did. And I ended up having a really great time, and I have really good memories from being in that club because I got to go out into nature, get a little exercise, get to know my students, and also learn some history along the way. So it was actually a really great experience. So I bought this book to help me take walks on my own, but I actually haven't gone out on any of these routes yet. So whoops, I've had this book for a really long time too. The next book here is The Life of Pi by Jan Martel, and this is the Korean version. This is my husband's, and I have not read this in Korean, but I did read it in English last year, and I really enjoyed it, and it's one of my husband's favorite books. So the lighting keeps changing. Sorry, guys. The next books on the shelf are the 1Q84 series by, or I guess it's not a series, it's just like a huge ass novel, but in the Korean translation it's really long, so it's split into 3 volumes. Yeah, again, this is my husband's book. He really likes Haruki Murakami, so he has quite a few that I'll show you a bit later. So yeah, these are his books, and I have not read this in English or in any other language for that matter. Next, I have a box set of the Lord of the Rings trilogy plus The Hobbit. I got this for free from one of my husband's coworkers. Apparently, one of his coworkers used to study English, and they had this really huge book collection of English books, and they didn't need them anymore, so I got to adopt them. So this is one of the treasures that I inherited, and I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but I haven't read the books. So I read The Hobbit, which I love. I've read it multiple times. And then last year, I finally read The Fellowship of the Ring for the first time. That's why this one is kind of looking battered compared to the other books in the collection. And yeah, I'm supposed to read The Two Towers and Return of the King. Me and my sister agreed to buddy read it, but I fell off the Lord of the Rings wagon, and she kept going. She finished the series. So now I'm behind, and I really need to catch up. So I'm going to try and maybe read these this year. Next, I have Sherlock Holmes, The Complete Novels and Stories, Volume 1 and 2 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I picked these up at some used bookstores in Seoul. I actually found them separately at 2 different bookstores at 2 different times, years apart from each other. It just was by luck, by chance, that I came across them both. So I have The Complete Novels and Stories of Sherlock Holmes. I have only ever read the Scarlet, whoops, I dropped it. A Study in Scarlet, and I didn't love it. But, you know, Sherlock Holmes is a classic, so I imagine I'll enjoy some of these stories. And they look nice on the shelf together. Next book on the shelf is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. This is another book that I inherited, and I don't know really anything about this, although I did see that there's a series, I think on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken. The cover looks really cool, and I like the idea of a mystery novel for young adults, so I'm excited to read that. So moving down to the right end of the shelf, I have Red Queen and Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. I've only read Red Queen, and I actually really liked it. I thought it was a fun, like, YA fantasy dystopian kind of thing. Totally up my alley and like very light, fun reading for me. So I finished Red Queen and then I picked up Glass Sword and I never got around to it. So it's just been sitting on my shelf for a really long time. I would like to get to the next book in the series. I just gotta pick it up. Next, I have a historical biography about Marie Antoinette. It's called Marie Antoinette, the Last Queen of France by Evelyn Lever. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And I've actually been meaning to read this book for years. I bought this back in college and I'm 30 now, so it's been a really long time. And I've picked it up and read a few chapters and then put it down. And then years later, I would pick it up again and read the same first few chapters and then put it down. And I just never finished it. And it's not boring. Like, so far, the beginning portions of her life are very interesting. And, you know, the author is doing a good job of making the history and the facts, like, very interesting. I'm just a lazy person, and I have not finished reading this book. And last on the shelf, I have the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. And these are the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. I don't know when the heck I will ever read these because they're really huge and daunting and intimidating. And I feel like maybe I need a teacher to like hold my hand through this. But the book covers are just absolutely gorgeous. And I was just really thrilled to, again, inherit these from my husband's coworkers. So, yeah, I just have them. But who knows when I'll ever read them. Okay, so I've brought all of the books from the first bookshelf under the desk out here into the living room where there's a little bit more light. So I'm going to get a little bit closer and go through each book one by one. These books are all mostly classics and somehow I have not read most of them. I don't know how I graduated university with an actual English literature degree because I feel like I read nothing. But anyways, here's my book collection. All right, so starting out here on the left, I have all of the Penguin Modern Classics. And yeah, I don't think I've read any of these. So on top, I have The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Oh, you know what? I was actually supposed to read this for one of my classes, but I didn't have time, so I skipped it. That's embarrassing. Jack Kerouac on the Road. I was also supposed to read this for a book club in college and I did not get to it because I was busy working. Next, I have Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. I'm very curious to read that. Next is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And last, I have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I feel like maybe I've read part of this. I don't remember. Did I read this? I don't even know. Next here, I have just some regular Penguin classics. So they're all flipped kind of upside down because I had them in alphabetical order by author and I didn't want to mess up the order. So yeah, they're upside down. Sorry. First, I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is one of my favorite books of all time and I've read it several times. And yeah, I just love it. Next, I have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I just read this for the first time last year, and I had mixed feelings on it, but I really enjoyed it. Next is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I have not read this, even though I bought it a long time ago. Then we have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, so it's like a 2-in-1. I've definitely read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland a few times. I feel like maybe I've read Through the Looking Glass a long time ago, but I cannot remember what happens. Next, I have Dante, the Divine Comedy, Volume 1, 2, and 3. So Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise. Yeah. When will I read these? I don't know. This is like a similar situation with like the Iliad and the Odyssey. Like I'm very intimidated. I don't know if I'm going to understand this stuff. Like, do I need a teacher to help me get through this material? I don't know, but I have it, and yeah, they're on my shelves. Next, I have Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I actually really don't know much about this story at all, and I have obviously not read it, but seems like a well-loved classic, so I've kept it on my shelf. And the last one in this stack is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. Sorry if I butchered that. I haven't read this either. I haven't read any Russian literature at all, so I don't know what to expect, but the back cover made it sound interesting, like something about a murder, hiding a murder, or covering up a murder, or murder mystery, or something murder related. So yeah, that's a big honker though. Moving on to the next stack of classics, I have Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. I really don't know anything about this. I'm not even sure why I've kept this. Then I have Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I did read this. I read it in high school, and I actually really hated this book. I hated it so much. I hated my teacher for making us read it. So I recently started to reread it as an adult, and I'm hoping that I will have a new perspective on it, and maybe I can appreciate it better now that I'm an adult, so we'll see about that. Next, I have The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Yeah, another book that I never read. I also have Moby Dick or The Whale by Herman Melville. This is another one of those really super intimidating books that I don't know when, if ever, I'm going to actually sit down and read this, but I got the book for free, so I'm holding on to it. Next is Paradise Lost by John Milton. I have not read the entire thing, but I did take a course on Paradise Lost, and I studied parts of it in depth, so I'm a little bit familiar with this one. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know. When am I going to read the entirety of Paradise Lost by myself for leisure? Great question. Don't know. But I actually feel a little bit more equipped to dive into this one by myself since I did study it in the past. Next, I have Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I haven't read this, but I would love to read a pirate story. It just sounds like fun. Next, I have Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. I did not read this in school, but I think we read some of his other like satire work, and I'm sure that this is going to be very satirical as well. Yeah, I heard it's funny. I heard it's good. So I'm interested to read this at some point. Next here is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I did read Tom Sawyer as a kid, but I never had to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in school. I don't know why. It just like wasn't in the curriculum for us. But yeah, I'm interested to read this. I do want to read Tom Sawyer as well, just to like refresh my memory because I really don't remember anything. And I don't know if like I need to have read Tom Sawyer first to enjoy Huckleberry Finn. I don't know. And the last book of this stack is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Goodness. And again, this is one that I just really don't know anything about it, but I know that there's a movie with Keira Knightley, so maybe if I read this and watch that movie, I can understand what's going on. And then the last little stack here is just like other books that didn't have any other place. Obviously, some of them are classics. This is not. But first off, I have The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I don't really have much to say about this because, I have not read it. And I just know that he, like, turns into a bug or something. And, yeah. I don't know what kind of commentary he's making on society with that. But maybe I will read it soon. Next, I have The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory. I got this at a used bookstore, and I read it last year, I think, and I really loved it. I know it's not historically accurate, but I just really enjoyed the writing. I loved the main character, Mary, and I just had a great time. The movie was disappointing, somehow. The book I thought was way better. Yeah, I actually really like this. I kind of want to reread it, actually. And I know it's like part of a series, so I'm curious to read more in the series. Next, I have Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, the 150th anniversary edition. Very exciting. I feel so uneducated because I don't even know what the heck this is about. Okay, it's about the French Revolution. Wow, okay. I need to go back to school, maybe. And lastly, I have a collection of 4 tragedies by William Shakespeare. This has Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. I've definitely read Hamlet. I really like Hamlet. No, that's an overstatement. I think Hamlet is fine. Othello, I've also read. I think I read that in high school, so I wasn't paying very good attention. And then I have not read King Lear or Macbeth. But, you know, Shakespeare's always fun. So those are all the books on the first shelf under the desk. So I'm going to put these back and then I'll get the last set of books for this bookshelf tour. Okay guys, these are the last stacks of books from underneath the desk. These are not in any particular order. They're just, I had them on the shelf in like size order. So that's how they're stacked here, just like upside down. And this is a mix of like reading books, nonfiction books, my husband's books, cookbooks, like all other random books. So let's get into this stack. So again, let's start over here on the left and I'll work my way over this way. Okay, first off, I have this Living in Seoul guidebook from the Seoul Global Center. And this is really old. I found this in my apartment when I very first moved to Korea in 2015? And this was already old by then. So I'm curious to know if they have printed a more recent guide, because I'm sure some of this information is out of date. But it's got information about like transportation, health insurance, recycling, and taking out your trash and that kind of stuff. Next, I have Whiskey's Hongji Yoheng by Haruki Murakami, and this is my husband's book, and it's about, I guess, Haruki Murakami drinking whiskey or something. I really don't know. Next, I have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This I just got. I got it from a friend, and yeah, I haven't read it yet, obviously. But I hear only good things, and everybody talks about it all the time on BookTube and Instagram and stuff like that. So I'm very looking forward to reading this. The next book on the stack is 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. And what do I say? So my husband actually asked me to read this book. Because when we first got married, I said, hey, why don't we read a book about like marriage and relationships? And he was like, I'd rather read a book about like just being a good person and living a good life. I was like, okay, that's fair compromise. We can read a book together about that. And so he was like, how about this book? And I said, okay. So I actually went out and bought it for both of us in Korean and English, in both of our respective languages. I think my husband just, heard there's this new popular, intellectual guy. He's a professor. He's written this like best-selling book, and it's supposed to be advice about how to live a good life. And then after that, I ended up doing a research about who is Jordan B. Peterson, and I was not impressed. I'm not a fan. So I'm not really looking forward to reading this book. And I would really just like to get it over with. Although I feel pretty good about the fact that, my husband hasn't read his book either. So that's fine. But yeah, I would like to read this and then get rid of it as soon as possible, I guess. Next, I have a Korean book. It's called 9살 마음 사전. So 9 years old. Like a feelings dictionary, and this is recommended by the people over at Talk to Me in Korean, and it does actually look like a really helpful book because all the words in here are like emotion words and feeling words, and then they give it like examples. So I think it's good for me as someone who's learning Korean and also soon to be a parent to know some of these different feeling words. And this cover is like really a pleasant texture. Oh boy, I love that. Next on my list is Jeju Bus Trip. This is a promotional material from Innisfree, which is a skincare company here. So I got this like as a freebie with one of my purchases, but it's like a little travel book. And obviously they're advertising some of their products in here. Like that's the point of making this book, is to sell the skincare products. But it's also got all this stuff about traveling in Jeju Island. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And yeah, I have not read it, but it looks cool. Next in this stack is one of my all-time favorite books, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. I've read this many, many times. I read it probably once a year at least, and I just love it. I think it's a brilliant system, and it's really helped me a lot in my life and organizing our home, so I love this book. Next is a travel guide by this, I don't know, City 60. I don't know. There's like, it had a cover on it, but I lost the cover. So I don't really know who's the author or what the name of this book properly is. But it's just a Tokyo travel guide. And I went to Tokyo and did not bring it with me. So, whoops. Next book here is Happy Illustrated Memo. And this is a Korean book with all of these like little tutorials on how to doodle cute stuff in your journal. So it's just tons and tons of doodles and tips for doodling. It's really cool, and it's gives me lots of inspiration. I don't draw very much in my bullet journal or my planner because I'm not great at drawing. But once in a while, if I need to draw something, I can pull this book out and reference some of these example doodles. Next, I have these two phrase books by Lonely Planet for Korean and Japanese. The Korean one, I just like to keep on hand when people come to visit me, and I can give them this little book and they can take it with them in case of emergency. And then obviously the Japanese one is for me because I don't speak Japanese, and I don't always like need to reference this when I'm traveling in Japan, but it gives me peace of mind to have it with me. Okay, moving on to the next stack. So again, this is 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. This is my husband's copy. Then we have this travel guide book for Seoul. It's 52 weeks worth of like date courses sort of. So they'll give you like maybe like 3 locations nearby each other, depending on the season and time of year, to go explore Seoul, and it's kind of cool. We haven't used it very much, but I think this was a gift from my sister-in-law, so it's a cool book. Next, I have these 2 comics, Penguin Loves Mev in the UK #1 and #2. I think there are more books in the series, and this was a webtoon before, and it's about a international couple. So the wife is Korean and the husband is British. So it's just about their like cultural differences and like funny things that happen in their relationship and traveling and stuff. So I haven't read these yet, but I think these are good for language learners as well, because it's a lot of like relatable situations, and also these books have some translations on the side for some of the stories, so that's helpful. Next, I have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in Korean, and this is a beautiful cover. I have been meaning to read this in Korean for years, and I just keep putting it off because what is this? Piece of trash. I'm just very intimidated by reading my first book all by myself, so I just need to get over my fear and just go for it and enjoy the story of Harry Potter. But yeah, it is actually on my list of goals for this year. We'll see if I achieve that goal to read this book, but I'm going to try my best. Next, I have the Mindfulness Journal for Anxiety, Daily Prompts and Practices to Find Peace by Tanya J. Peterson. And yeah, I bought this when I was like dealing with a lot of anxiety, and it's just a bunch of different like quotes and journaling prompts to help you deal with anxiety in the moment. And Yeah, I've used some of the prompts in the first half of this book. I'm obviously not going to show you my journaling, but yeah, it's a very useful tool. Next, I have The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up in Korean, which I bought for my husband, and he has not read it, unfortunately. Just like he wanted me to read a book about, you know, living a good life or whatever, I wanted him to read a book about organizing so that he can understand, you know, why I'm so like neurotic about organizing everything in the house. And yeah, he read part of it, but he didn't finish it. And also, I think maybe at some point I would like to read this book in Korean as well. Next, I have New Ideas from Dead Economists, An Introduction to Modern Economic Thought by Todd G. Butcholtz. I'm not sure why I have this book. This is obviously something that I got as a hand-me-down from somebody, but I decided to keep it, I guess, because I really don't know anything about economics, and I thought maybe I can read this and learn something. Next, I have Fear, Essential Wisdom for Getting Through the Storm by, I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce that because I know I'm going to get it wrong. I think I heard he passed away recently, but he was like a very famous like monk, I guess. And I bought this at the same time that I got that anxiety journal because I was just dealing with some ish and I thought this would help me out. I never finished reading it. I'm not a very spiritual person, so some of the advice was like too spiritual for my taste. So I wasn't able to get through this book, but the next books here are Haruki Murakami books. I don't know what this translates to in English. So I don't know what these are, but these are my husband's books and I think he's read them. It's the last stack, finally. So first off, we have a cookbook about like cooking in one pot, like a hot pot. It says 따뜻한 냄비 하나, one warm pot. So just recipes. Then we have the Adventure Time official cookbook. I bought this for my husband for his birthday, I think, or maybe Christmas, back when we were dating because he was like really into Adventure Time back then. But some of the recipes in here are weird. So I don't know if they're meant for human consumption or not. Next, I have like an old magazine that I picked up like going through an airport. This is another magazine that I picked up, I think, in an airport when I was in Taiwan, and I just love the layouts in here and the fashion. I just think it looks so cool. So this is like a little treasure of mine. I can't read a damn thing because I don't speak or read Mandarin. But yeah, it's a really beautiful magazine. This is an American magazine that I bought because my sister wrote an article in here. So I was just proud of her and I purchased the magazine. Next, I have a book about baby care in Korean. It says 나는 초보 엄마입니다. I'm like a first-time mom. And it just has advice about all kinds of little things for taking care of babies. Holding a baby, feeding a baby, washing a baby, putting clothes on a baby, clipping their nails, putting them to sleep. Like, I know nothing, so I bought this book and I thought it'd be good for studying Korean too. All right, next I have a comic book. This is my husband's. I don't know what the title is. I don't know what it's about. It's just one of my husband's manhwa books. Next, I have The Invention of Racism in Classical Antiquity by Benjamin Isaac. Now, this is clearly like a university textbook, course book thingy, academic thing. And yeah, I don't think this will be a leisurely read, but I was just very intrigued by the title. And I was curious to read what the heck they're talking about. And I got this from one of my friends. This was a book that she like found in her apartment. It's just like a foreigner thing. Like you take other people's trash, I guess, when they leave. And so, yeah, so that's how I ended up with this. Next book is The Silent Patient by Alex okay, I can't read that either. And Alex M. And this I just got recently from a friend. She said it was a very interesting, suspenseful thriller, so that'll be fun. And finally, the last book here, 아름다운 몸 만들기, How to Make a Beautiful Body. And it's just advice for women about exercise and diet, and it gives like a training plan and all that fun stuff. And it's in Korean. So I bought this because I thought, you know, I want to get in shape. I also want to learn Korean, so 2 birds, 1 stone. However, I am pausing my fitness journey, obviously, because I'm pregnant. So, oh my gosh, we're done. We did it. Okay. So those were all of my books. This took a little bit longer than I expected, but mostly because I had to carry the books from one room to another and stack them up and stuff. And it was just a little bit complicated, but we did it. We did it. So yeah, let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books or if you're interested in reading some of these. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you recommend any books for me, that would be great too. But yeah, I guess that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that would really help me out. And I will see you again in another video. Hope you're doing well. Bye.